Hey, good morning or afternoon or evening or whatever time you might be watching this. Welcome to the Nuclear Reactor Show. Again, my name is Daniel and I am a nuclear reactor. A little bit of quick insight. I'm a guy that is in a nuclear family, a devoted Christian, husband, father, married, two kids. And I just want to give some perspectives here about the nuclear family, some criticisms, observations, and things that maybe we need to fix and work on. And today's topic, men need to be in good shape. Nowadays, I see a problem with men. We're in very much the overweight and obesity crisis, at least here in this country, here in America. Too many of us are fat. There's too many men that fortunately have breasts like women. There's too many men out here that they have a case of booty do, which means that your stomach sticks out more than your booty do. We've got myriad health problems. I know we like to run to the doctor nowadays for every single little thing and run to CVS and Walgreens and all that kind of stuff. But men need to be in good shape. And the point of this video is to remind you that it's actually more in control than a lot of men want to admit to. Now, to be clear here, throw my disclaimers out there. I'm not talking to the men that have some kind of debilitating medical issue, something that you legitimately can't control, that's out of your hands, that's making you overweight or obese or out of shape. But otherwise, for the vast majority of us, or the 90 something percent, there's no excuse. If you're a husband, a father, if you got a family that you care about, you got to be in good shape. Here's why. First and foremost, you want to be able to protect your wife and kids. Okay, whether you look solid, strong, swole, whatever you want to call it, and people don't mess with you and your family because you look like a strong protector. In other words, the appearance makes a difference. That's important. That's most of the work right there. Now, will people occasionally mess with you and mess with your family? Yeah, that happens. That's part of life. That's part of society. There's a lot of weirdos and wackos out there. But for the most part, you're not going to have people messing with you all the time if you take care of yourself. And even if they do mess with you, you'll be quick, you'll be strong, you'll be able to do something about it instead of just, sheepishly giving up. Doesn't hurt to learn a martial art or a way to exert yourself, which can also help you get in good shape. Another reason, you got to be able to keep up with your kids. If you're like me and you got younger kids, they want to play. They want to go to the park and they want to jump on stuff and they want to, play WWE wrestling and do all kinds of fun stuff. And if you're huffing and puffing and sucking wind, uh, you're not dad of the year. If you can't keep up with them, something wrong with you. Also, there's a competitive side to it. I like to be in better shape than my kids if I can help it. One, because um, I want to, I want my kids to have the thrill of the challenge, and two, like your kids can't be beating you and stuff. I'm talking about like, you got like a little 2-year old daughter and you play a little thing. I'm talking about, you got to be able to beat your kids in football and basketball, and you got to be able to outrun them. They got to know that dad's the boss. And when you're not able to do that, I really do think deep down that modicum of respect gets knocked down a little bit. And plus your kids are over there on a playground. Daddy, come push me on the swing. And you can't do it because you're sitting there sucking wind. Your legs are all sprawled out. Maybe you're sitting there on the phone pretending you're doing something busy when all you're doing is just scrolling through your social media feed. When deep down, you don't want to get up and do it because I'm too tired and sweaty and I don't want to do it because I'm out of shape. So get in good shape for your kids. The other reason, or another reason, is respect. First and foremost, you got to respect yourself. God gave you a body, He gave you a temple. Treat it with a little dignity. How you treat your own body gives other people how they should, a sign of how they should treat you. So it's not just respect for yourself, but it's also respect for others. I'm sure if there's anybody watching or listening to this that has made some major physical changes in a positive sense, either they've lost a lot of weight, or they've gained some muscle, or they've gotten in better shape for some kind of competition, be honest. You've gotten more respect from people. People that maybe just ignored you before, they smile at you, they talk to you a little bit. Um, they just treat you with more respect. Is it right? I mean, probably not. No, no. But it's real. People just have an innate trustworthiness towards people that are in good shape and show a semblance of physical attraction. I don't make the rules. That's just how it be. And speaking of the whole appeal side and how people respect you and all that kind of stuff, you got to think about your wife. This is, in my opinion, the biggest and one of the biggest. And it's going to seem vain, but you got to be in good shape. So your wife thinks you're sexy. She thinks you look sexy. She thinks that you're taking good care of yourself. You want your wife to brag on you, or you want her to look at you and be like, "Wow, like that's that's my husband." That's what you want your wife to be thinking or feeling. You want your wife to be all up on you. Makes you feel good, doesn't it? The appeal of the dad bod, I want to say this is a myth. It's overrated. I don't know how the media somehow prop that up, that a dad bod is something to be desired. To be a little bit out of shape. No, I think what people mean is the dad bod makes you look more docile and it makes you look cuddly and maybe cute, but it's not attractive. You want to have some semblance of muscle or being in shape. Sorry. And I know there's exceptions to this rule. There's women out there that might watch this and say, "What? My husband, he's, I love him, I love his dad bod and all that kind of stuff." Maybe that's the case. Most part, it is the husband falls out of shape. This can happen as life goes on. You get older, your metabolism slows down, you get busy and all that kind of stuff. I'll talk about the whole busyness thing later. But you let yourself go. We've all done it. At some point, it makes you less physically attractive. So if there's turmoil within your marriage, at least on an intimacy level, at least rule out the prospect that it might be that you're not in as great a shape. Just cover your bases on that. And on that same note, another reason why you want to get in shape, better blood flow. When you and your wife do the deed, you want to be well prepared downstairs. But don't worry, this isn't going to turn into an ad read or anything. I'm not well known enough yet for that. Sponsors call me. You want to have good blood flow. You don't want to go into cardiac arrest every time you and your wife, or yeah, every time you and your wife get intimate. Holy crap, that is horrible. You want to have good blood flow. You don't want to be relying on drugs, chemicals, Viagra, Cialis, and paying all kinds of money and worrying about side effects from some outside substance. You want to be able to do the most with the equipment that you have. I think these are more than enough sufficient reasons to get in shape. But we need to talk about some roadblocks as well, some things that are probably preventing you. The biggest roadblock is the haters. People don't want you to be healthy and in shape. Haters can come in many different forms. Haters can come from the media. Yeah, this media that portrays that the dad bods are desirable. You see it nowadays on TV shows and commercials. They're putting more overweight and obese people in the shows. You see modeling for clothing commercials. They try to call it different names like husky and plus size. Try to say it's being more inclusive, but there's another message behind it, is that they're trying to hate on people that do work hard and stay in shape. There was a time where that term came out, fat shaming. I think there's some thin shaming going on as well. And you shouldn't let anyone make you feel bad if you are in good shape, if you worked hard to get a nice body, get a nice physique. You shouldn't let anybody make you feel bad about that. But the haters are there and they're real. Another source of haters are, believe it or not, the people in your life, the people that are your so-called friends, loved ones, family members, especially when they're out of shape or they can't follow a regimen, a nutritional plan. They'll try to bring you down. They'll tell you that you're getting too skinny or you're over obsessive. Loosen up a little bit. Quit eating all that rabbit food all the time. You'll hear that. Or if you have a little bit of a relapse, if you will, maybe you've been losing weight consistently, you have a bad week. Oh, I gained a pound back. Well, it's not working anymore. You might as well just give up and eat some lasagna with us. The haters are present. Don't let them stop you from your goals. Another roadblock, junk food in the house. You might live in a household and you're like, well, I don't want to be the one to take away all the cookies and stuff. My kids like those. My wife likes them. You're the man of the house. No food that doesn't need to be there has to be there. You can get rid of it. You can give it away. I hate to waste food, but if you have to throw it away, if you become that desperate, so be it. You might say to yourself, well, they like that stuff and they're not worrying about their health and weight condition like I am. And like, what do I expect? You're the man of the house. Tell them to get rid of it. Tell them to hide it, or else maybe you're not the man of the house. Just putting it out there. And if it is out there and you're able to practice self control, even seeing the chips and stuff, that's awesome. Not everyone has that amount of willpower, but if you're able to and you're that determined, good for you. But the junk in the house, some degree, is going to be a roadblock for you. You have to acknowledge that. Another thing is the poor time management. People say that they don't have time to work out. Like, oh, I'm too busy with work and this and that. You can make time. If you can make time to binge watch TV shows and watch sitcoms and all that kind of stuff, you can make time to work out. It doesn't take an excessive amount, and I'll go into that here in a little bit. But if you can just block out 2 or 3 days a week consistently where you can exercise, you can make this happen. Another major roadblock is your own head. You telling yourself that you can't do it, or I'm fine the way I am, I'm content the way I am. You have to push through that. You're going to have to work out and exercise and eat clean at times where you don't 100% feel like it. You might feel motivated after this video and want to run through a brick wall, but there's going to be times where you're literally going to have to grit your teeth and drag yourself to the gym, to the scale to weigh yourself, to the water fountain to drink more water instead of drinking Mountain Dew and energy drinks. You're going to have to do something different with your time, and you're going to have to fight the internal battle in your mind. So I've been talking about all this, and you're probably wondering, what is the standard to be in good shape? I'm glad you asked, or didn't ask, but I pretend that you asked. Here's some standards that I came up with. I think these are all reasonable and attainable for any man that's in decent condition under the age of, I would say, like 60. Jogging a mile without stopping is a reasonable goal, or without a crazy amount of strain. Run a leisurely mile, 10-minute to 11-minute mile is not unreasonable. That's a jog. You can do it. Being able to bench and or squat around your body weight, that's a good baseline of strength, functional strength. I think that's a good measure. A flight of stairs not killing you. If 13, 14, 15 stairs has you sucking wind, you got some work to do. Not needing to be a model should be pointed out as well. Really, abs are overrated on a functional sense, but you should avoid having a gut. Again, you don't want to be built like a giant beach ball. You don't want to look like you're smuggling a watermelon. You don't want to have a bigger bust line, a bigger chest than your wife. I think those are reasonable goals. But yeah, you don't need to be a supermodel. Don't get caught up in those media perceptions that you have to be a magazine model cover or you have to be some actor on a TV show. That's the standard that you need to be at. That's unattainable for most people. And by the way, those people have personal chefs, trainers. They're paid by the movie company, the advertising company to look a certain way. And that's not sustainable for most people. But you probably want somewhere in between. You don't want to be on the opposite spectrum to where, you can't fit through a door frame. Somewhere in between. where you don't look sloppy. That's the standard, I would say. Now, all this talk about what you should look like, why it's important for men, what can you do? First of all, schedule time to exercise. You can do it 3 days a week for 30 minutes at a time. Work your butt off. You can do it. Whatever routine like you follow, whether it's more weight training, body weight, calisthenics, more cardio based, there's no perfect routine, but doing something consistently is not that hard to do and it's not that crazy. You can squeeze something in between your work schedule, driving your kids around, and still spending time with your wife. 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week. That's too much. Do 2 45s. You can make it happen. And by the way, this is probably not necessary if you work a legit manual labor job. For example, if you work in construction and your physicality is a part of your income, the workout's probably built in. In fact, you probably don't even need to listen to this video that far if you're one of those people. But there we go. That's what you got. You got to schedule time for it. Another thing is you got to clean up the diet. I've heard the phrase many times throughout my life is you can't outwork a bad diet. Again, whatever your specific niche is, that's a whole deeper discussion. Whether it's keto, Atkins diet, you're doing some low carb stuff, vegan, certain elimination diets, blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of stuff. There is no ultimately a perfect diet per se, but they all come with the baseline of moderating and not overly indulging yourself. So with that being said, don't eat to capacity. In other words, don't eat until you feel like you're ready to explode. Heavy drinking has got to go. Not that there's anything wrong with having a Heineken here every once in a while, but if you're slamming back 12 packs, that's got to stop. Excessive junk food is going to hurt you as well. And don't sit there and get all arbitrary and be like, oh, well, junk food is really a relative term. It's all about counting your calories and blah, blah, blah. You know junk food when you see it. Don't be an idiot. You know chocolate cake and donuts and fried chicken. You know what junk food is when you see it. Be moderate with that. I'm not saying that you can never eat donuts ever again in your life. Don't eat 10 of them. You know, that's really what you can do. But guys, you have to understand that being in good shape is paramount. It is absolutely important for your marriage, the dealings with your family. It is absolutely essential. You want to get the most out of your life. You want to take advantage of this holy temple that God has bestowed upon you. It doesn't take rocket science. You're meant to move. You're meant to be strong and masculine and powerful. You don't have to be some kind of super duper macho man or anything like that. And it's not vanity, too, by the way. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that you're arrogant or stuff. So don't let it go to your head. You know, you lose a couple of pounds, the pants fit a little looser, and then all of a sudden you start thinking you're Mr. Incredible. I saw the movie too. You remember what it was like when he started feeling himself? He went to the island. He was out here fighting robots. Other superheroes were dying. It's a whole thing. But you don't want to get too ahead of yourself. You want to be good enough shape, appreciate the hard work that it got there. Don't let anybody disrespect you once you finally do reach whatever your goal weight is or whatever your goal physique is. Put in the work to maintain it. And just remember that it's going to increase the quality of your life. It's going to increase the comfort of your life. It's going to increase intimacy in your marriage. It's going to increase the amount of respect that you get from your wife, from your children, from your neighborhood. And at the same time, it's going to expose some haters too, which is actually a good thing because you know the kind of people that aren't constructive to you and you can filter them out of your life. In conclusion, staying in shape, getting in shape, very important. Don't let any of this rhetoric tell you that the dad bod is okay, that being out of shape is okay. These outlets want men to be soft and gushy, and docile, almost feminized in a way. They want you to be built like a bowling ball. That's not how you're supposed to be built. There's a reason why when they come out with a new Superman or Batman or Spider-Man movie, they don't get somebody with a dad bod. Toby Maguire and them had to go to the gym in order to get the parts. Otherwise we're talking about the wrong group of superheroes. We need more Superman and Wolverine and Spider-Man and less Kung Fu Panda, which hurts me to say because I actually love that movie and I think it's funny. But you don't want to be built like one. So slow down on eating all of the noodles and the bean buns and get in shape for your wife, for your family, for your loved ones, and for your duty to God. You guys have a wonderful day, night, evening, or whatever time you happen to be watching this. Peace.